When we spoke yesterday, you said there were some changes you wanted to make overnight in the car to get a better balance. Were the changes made for today?
Yeah, we made lots of changes. The car felt great too.
And the car felt great. So when you said on the radio, the same thing again, are you referring to your performance in qualifying? And you don't know why, it's just you can't find it at the moment, that skill you've been known for? All right, I'll leave it to it. Thanks, Lewis.
Tough luck out there. Did you feel as that final lap was coming together that it wasn't going to be quite enough, and did you be fighting it all the way through Q1?
So say it again?
Did you feel like on that final lap, as it was coming together, it wasn't going to be quite enough to get through, and had you been fighting the car all the way through Q1 just to try and get something out of it?
I think most of the lap was good enough to get through. I just couldn't finish it.
And how different did the car feel after the rebuild and the great job the team did, obviously, this morning?
The team did a mega job. They deserve better for sure.
I changed completely the car from FP2 to FP3, and it felt a little bit better, but I couldn't really see that in terms of performance just yet. So yeah, and then in qualifying I was really happy with the 2 laps in Q3. I really went all in, and it was either I finish a lap or crash into the wall, but luckily I finished the laps and I'm pretty happy with them, so there wasn't anything more we could have done today. I don't know because yeah, everybody seemed to be very strong in race pace. We weren't strong in FP2, but we changed so much the car from FP2 that I still have hopes that we made it better for the race as well, but only time will tell. It will be a bit more of a difficult car to drive, but I think a faster one, and I hope, being faster is eventually what matters, but I just hope the car will be okay to drive for a whole race distance.
Pacing, I'm afraid. Yeah, every time, I'm so sorry. That's up P16, I'm afraid. Yeah, every time, I'm so sorry. Weybridge again.
Hamilton arrived at Yas Marina with the aim of closing a season full of doubts with dignity. But what he experienced that Saturday night was not just a disappointment, it was a sporting catastrophe. In this video we are going to analyze in depth what happened to Lewis Hamilton in qualifying for the 2025 Abu Dhabi GP, from the accident in free practice to his surprising elimination in Q1. Stay, because what you are going to discover here reveals much more than bad weather. It tells us about the technical, mental, and structural collapse of a project that excited the world and ended up on its knees. Abu Dhabi, the last stop on the calendar, became the perfect summary of what the year was for Hamilton and Ferrari, an ambitious project that never found direction. The Yas Marina circuit, a layout that mixes long straights with slow, technical corners, is also one of the most demanding places in terms of traction and aerodynamic balance. For a car that had demonstrated instability under braking and chronic oversteer in slow corners, it was a perfect trap. Lewis Hamilton arrived at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix with 2 consecutive eliminations in Q1. Their qualifying performance had been erratic since mid-season, but what happened at Yas Marina exceeded all expectations, in the worst possible way. In Saturday's session, Hamilton could only set the 16th fastest time, being eliminated in the first phase of qualifying, for the 3rd time in a row. And the most alarming thing is that this time there didn't even seem to be a real fight to advance to Q2. In Yas Marina, all those doubts found their echo in the stopwatch. A 16th place that not only eliminated it, but left it behind cars that were clearly inferior in theory. That Q1 was a silent sentence. There was no obvious shouting or frustration over the radio. Just a resignation that had already settled into Hamilton's body language for weeks. He got out of the car knowing that the year had ended not with a roar, but with a sigh. Abu Dhabi GP qualifying wasn't just a bad session. It was confirmation that the Ferrari-Hamilton project, at least in its first year, had failed miserably. Not for lack of talent, nor for lack of resources, but because of the profound disconnection between a capricious car and a driver who, for the first time in his career, seemed to have lost faith in his machinery. Hamilton's weekend in Abu Dhabi was marked from the moment the 3rd free practice began. If the classification revealed the final result of a season full of complications, FP3 was the exact moment in which everything broke down, the point where the technical fragility of the SF25 was exposed without the possibility of hiding. To understand why Q1 ended the way it did, it is essential to stop at that accident that defined the course of the weekend. The session was proceeding normally when Hamilton took to the track to do a qualifying simulation run. The objective was simple: validate the car's latest settings, ensure that the front axle responded correctly, and confirm that the car was capable of attacking a fast lap later. But from the first turn, Hamilton began to report contradictory sensations. The car did not accept the weight transfer as it should, especially when entering the curve. The steering offered a strange resistance, a metallic and uncommunicative feedback that for a pilot of his caliber is an immediate warning of mechanical distrust. On the critical lap, Hamilton reached turn 9, an area that requires absolute precision. It is a prolonged lateral support point, where the car must generate stability in the mid-turn phase and then allow clean traction towards the straight. But SF25 gave him none of those guarantees. As soon as he turned the wheel, the rear reacted with a sudden and violent oversteer. It was not a progressive slip, it was not a classic loss of control. It was an instant snap oversteer, almost impossible to correct. The car spun 360 degrees and went straight towards the barriers. The impact was not devastating in visual terms, but it was deeply damaging structurally. The front wing was destroyed, the suspension suffered deformations, and the geometry of the front axle was compromised. However, the most disturbing thing was what Lewis reported on the radio. Something bent in the front and broke the rear. That phrase perfectly summarizes the seriousness of the situation. In a modern single-seater, when a structural component deforms, the entire aerodynamic balance collapses. The rigidity of the chassis, the distribution of loads, and the behavior of the car when braking and turning are outside any reliable parameter. The red flag stopped the session for 13 minutes, but for Ferrari those minutes became a desperate race against time. Qualification was just hours away, and every screw, every suspension rod, every adjustment needed to be checked and repaired with surgical precision. The mechanics worked to the limit, disassembling the front area of the car almost completely. But what they were trying to salvage wasn't simply the car's superficial aerodynamics. They were trying to rebuild the confidence that Hamilton needed to push forward in qualifying. The accident also revealed a truth that Ferrari tried to hide for much of the year. The SF25 chassis had an extremely narrow operating window, especially on the rear axle. Any slight variation, whether it was a change in track temperature, a change in the height of the car, or an incorrect suspension setting, could trigger unpredictable behavior. Hamilton knew this, and that knowledge eroded his ability to attack the boundaries with determination. The idea that the car could break stability without warning made it impossible for a driver to build confidence lap after lap. The image after the crash became iconic. Hamilton walking towards the damaged SF25, picking up pieces of the wing and placing them on the car. It was not a dramatic gesture. It was the silent expression of a pilot who recognizes that his work tool is betraying him. At that time, Ferrari didn't just have to repair one car. He had to mend a broken relationship between a champion and his machine. And he didn't succeed. That accident was not just another incident. It was the definitive technical manifestation of an unpredictable car, of a project that could not sustain the pressure of its own level of expectation. From that moment, the classification was already decided. Hamilton never had a car he could trust, and in Formula One, without trust, you can't be fast. Without confidence, you are condemned to be left out in Q1. In Formula One, a car can be fast on paper and disastrous on the track if it fails to connect with its driver. And in the case of Hamilton and the SF25, that disconnect was much deeper than any telemetry graph or timing chart could show. Abu Dhabi wasn't just a bad weekend. It was the starkest demonstration of a broken relationship between an elite pilot and a machine that never understood him. What was experienced in FP3 was the technical collapse. What was seen in the classification was the emotional collapse. In these types of situations, the driver begins to distrust not only the car but himself. Every lap becomes a mental battle. The feeling that the car can betray you at any moment generates tension that prevents you from concentrating on pure execution. And when we talk about classification in Formula One, where everything is defined in thousandths, that tension is a death sentence. All season, Hamilton and his engineers had tried everything. Modifications in the height of the car, in the rake, in the engine maps, in the braking distribution. Nothing seemed to work consistently. They even went so far as to rethink the driving philosophy, with Hamilton adapting his style to that of Charles Leclerc in slow corners, releasing the accelerator earlier and braking softer to try to maintain stability. But not even that adaptation, which in another context would have been a sign of maturity, was enough to tame the unpredictability of the SF25. The psychological component was just as devastating. Hamilton is a born competitor. He has built his career on unwavering confidence in his ability to make a difference. But in 2025, that confidence was replaced by doubts, internal questions, self-criticism. On more than one occasion, he was heard admitting in interviews that he did not know why the car reacts like that. That phrase is a serious symptom in an environment where every detail must be millimeter controlled. Not knowing what to expect from the car turns each session into an emotional Russian roulette. And that state of mind was evident in Yas Marina. During qualifying, Hamilton did not show the usual aggressiveness, nor the surgical precision that has characterized him throughout his career. Its layout was more cautious, its power delivery more conservative. And not because he was taking care of the tires, but because the car had stripped him of his most powerful weapon, the conviction that he could attack each corner with complete safety. When a driver of Hamilton's caliber is out of Q1 3 times in a row, we are not dealing with a simple drop in performance. We are seeing the consequences of a complete disconnection between mind, body, and machine. Confidence, rhythm, instinct, everything falls apart when the car responds with betrayal. In Abu Dhabi, Hamilton was not defeated by his rivals. He was defeated by his own car, by a system that promised excellence and ended up sowing uncertainty with every lap thrown. The SF25 didn't just fail as a technical tool. It failed as a pilot extension. And in Formula One, when a car does not become part of the driver's body, everything else is irrelevant. The Abu Dhabi classification was the toughest test of that invisible fracture that ended up destroying Hamilton's season from within. Therefore, this story does not end in Abu Dhabi. What happened in that classification is only the final chapter of a failed year, but it is also the prelude to a crossroads. Because if 2026 does not represent real, deep, and tangible change, then perhaps we are witnessing not just a bad season, but the latest attempt at one of the most anticipated and frustrating alliances in modern Formula One history. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.